characters. I'm gonna react to this, and then I'm also react to every Hotel Transylvania character. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this is what I'm gonna be doing. So yeah, here we go. Let's watch this shoot.
This suit's all I got to remind me of who they were, what I did.
Whether you grew up with the classics or you're growing up with Camp Coral, if it's the latter, sorry to hear that, everybody loves this little square dude and the many residents of Bikini Bottom. And today we're ranking every SpongeBob SquarePants character from worst to best in our official tier list. We'll begin with the worst characters from this undersea ensemble, and while there aren't too many, the F tier has some unsavory characters. Our last place pick might be a bit controversial, but just kidding, it's Puffy Fluffy. I doubt this guy has any supporters. It's no secret.
Yeah, bro, I hate that episode of SpongeBob. That's like my least favorite episode of SpongeBob ever. Like, seriously, I hate that episode so much.
That the 7th season's A Pal for Gary is rightly considered by most fans to be one of, if not the worst SpongeBob episode. We could rant about how downright out of character SpongeBob's ignorance and inconsideration towards Gary is here, but this is about Puffy Fluffy.
Beware, boy. This is no ordinary pet.
A character whose only character trait is terrorizing Gary for an entire episode. We're not sure who thought Gary being chased by a monster with murderous intent was funny, but they were definitely mistaken.
You put Fluffy down right now. Bad boy Gary. Bad boy.
Puffy Fluffy's bottom spot placement reflects that he's basically the epitome of the worst mid-season SpongeBob has to offer. But the earlier seasons weren't devoid of their own unlikable characters, like the pizza customer. We gave this guy the gold medal of evil on our recent redux of the SpongeBob cast's moral standings, a decision we stand by even now. But whether you agree or not, one of the few things unifying every SpongeBob fan is that this guy is the absolute worst.
Where's my drink?
Now, in his limited defense, it's possible that he did order a drink, and that Mr. Krabs just forgot to communicate that to SpongeBob and Squidward.
How am I supposed to eat this pizza without my drink?
But in any case, shouting at an enthusiastic delivery boy until he cries is just downright unnecessary. If you want a Diet Dr. Kelp, maybe, I don't know, go get one at the grocery store or our convenience store, literally anywhere that sells them, and even if the order was right, you just know this guy wouldn't have tipped. For our third and final character in the F tier, we have Kevin C. Cucumber.
Oh yeah, this guy is such a geek. I can't stand him.
Okay, he gets points for clever wordplay in his name and being in a pretty good episode. As unlikable as he is, he does have a few funny insults under his belt.
Loser.
Hey, I've heard this call before.
But any credit he'd get for that is taken away by the fact that he's a total fraud who bawls like a baby in the face of actual danger.
Help me, Mommy! Help me!
That crown might not have been a hat, but you still don't deserve it, Kevin. What you do deserve is a prison sentence, considering you left multiple members of your fan club in a deep abyss to presumably starve.
Kevin's back! Kevin! We love you, Kevin!
Let's move on to the more likable, or at least less unlikable characters. This is the D tier. We're sticking to one-off characters for now, starting with Patrick's big sister, Sam Star. Ignoring that this is one of the many times later seasons, not to mention spin-offs, ignored established lore in the series, which, to be fair, said lore was a throwaway line of dialogue, Sam isn't a particularly endearing character.
Big nose, no like sand. Big nose move.
Her whole shtick is smashing people's houses if they even remotely upset her, which, spoiler alert, isn't hard to do. That said, she did help protect Patrick when they got lost as children, and she does genuinely love her brother. It's not enough for us to place her any higher, but it's enough for us to keep her out of the F tier. Suffering a similar fate is the newest SpongeBob movie villain, King Poseidon. The monarch of Atlantic City, King Poseidon is... well, you know how King Neptune was vain and obnoxious, but also a genuine threat who intimidated people? Yeah, King Poseidon has those first two traits down, but they sort of lost their way after that. He lacks any of the screen presence Neptune had in the original movie, and added to the fact that he's an animal abuser who uses snails for skincare and then enslaves them, it's hard to like the guy. It's nice that he learns to accept himself at the end of the movie and that he presumably became a better person afterwards, but look man, we can only give you so much credit for a turnaround that has no effect on the movie as a whole. Sorry dude. SpongeBob might be nice enough to forgive a notorious kidnapper, but the Bikini Bottom police would be a lot more hesitant.
What have you got in there? Quasi-gummy, chewy candy fish. Is this how you have fun? By eating your own kind? Scum like you make me sick.
These guys are at least pretty funny, from beating a mailbox for being crooked to arresting SpongeBob for the crime of not inviting them to his house party.
We're gonna straighten you out!
The This'll fix you.
But that doesn't change the fact that they're almost never an actual help to the community. Prove it? Okay, how about Plankton? Seriously, I'm pretty sure Mrs. Puff has had more prison time than Plankton. The guy might be tiny, but you'd think that surely the police would have found some way to keep him in jail after he literally enslaved the entire town.
You'll never hold me. These primitive shackles.
That's the thing about this, like, and I'm glad he mentioned that, but Mrs. Puff had more jail time than Plankton. When Plankton's literally just going every opportunity trying to rule and just ruin the Bikini Bottom. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, like, how come he's not arrested more than Mrs. Puff? What the fuck?
No match for my genius. That was easy.
When they aren't trying to help, they're actively making the situation worse.
What happened to prisoner 665321?
What the fuck?
So, as entertaining as the police can be in Bikini Bottom, we definitely wouldn't call them for an actual emergency.
Litter bugs. This is why I joined the force.
Next is a character who's ranked low for a pretty unconventional reason. The Lord Royal Highness from Atlantis Squarepantis. A character voiced by the late great David Bowie in an admittedly divisive TV musical special. The stars are aligning, baby! Sure, his design is one of the most hideous things I've ever seen on a show that isn't Big Mouth, but I'm sure his musical talent will make up for it. Oh, what's that? He doesn't sing. So let me get this straight. The guy voiced by famous musician David Bowie was cast in a musical episode of one of the most iconic cartoons ever created, and he not only doesn't sing, but is the literal only major character in the episode who doesn't sing. We'll talk about a missed opportunity, really putting the L in LRH. May he rest in peace and get that musical number in heaven, perhaps. To round out our D tier, we have one more movie villain, Burger Beard. Now, Burger Beard does get points for being in a good movie. No disrespect to anyone who likes Sponge on the Run, but unlike that one, Sponge Out of Water, in my opinion, did a better job of feeling like SpongeBob while also doing something unique. Having a live-action pirate be the main antagonist was a fun choice, even if he wasn't very intimidating and his goal really only began and ended at sell burger.
My very own food truck.
What?
You know, a restaurant on wheels.
Like, come on, he couldn't have known that would tear apart the fabric of Bikini Bottom society, surely. Still, if he had more screen time, he could have been way more memorable, so we'll give the guy some credit. But now let's move on to the more beloved secondary characters. This is the C tier. While we love it when you guys type comments for us, if you're Stanley S. Squarepants, we'll kindly ask you not to, for the sole reason that we don't want your computer to turn into a nuclear bomb. This poor guy has the absolute worst luck in existence. Everything he touches spontaneously combusts, tears, runs away in fear, or is otherwise destroyed.
Sorry, boss.
He's like Shigaraki from My Hero Academia, but instead of maliciously destroying whatever he touches, he's just an unwilling force of mass chaos and bad luck. We can't hate the guy since he has only the best of intentions, but how much good can you really do with the character whose whole shtick is sucking at literally everything? So relatable. Now, no offense, Stanley, but maybe you just need a helping hand like Hans. We'd suggest Glovey Glove, but I don't really trust Glovey Glove. Hans is great though. He'll scrub you clean if you've got the suds, get you a spare pair of pants so you won't perform your intro.
In the nude?
But perhaps his most important good deed is helping bring SpongeBob and friends back when they fall out of bounds in some of the SpongeBob PS2 games.
What's happening?
In this scene, you'll be cleaning bathroom fixtures.
Which is good, but dude, please just take me to the next level. I'm so tired of this kelp vine slide. Every great sponge has to come from somewhere. Up next are SpongeBob's parents. While they aren't the most fleshed out characters, we have to give them some credit for being so genuinely nice and pleasant. They're not overbearing on SpongeBob, but they're still always there for him, whether he needs a place to stay or a family to celebrate getting his boating license with.
A brand new boatmobile!
More importantly than anything though, they always make sure to show pride in SpongeBob's accomplishments. It's no wonder the guy is so content working at his job as an underpaid fry cook. Now you might have thought those two were cookies rather than old loofah sponges, in which case you should visit Grandma Squarepants. Admit it, your innermost desire for delicious fresh-baked cookies is taking you over.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay, it's natural. If you haven't called your grandma recently, maybe it's time to schedule a cookie baking session. And if you don't have a good relationship with your grandma, you know what? Bake yourself some cookies. You deserve them. We all know this absolute angel would agree. We're gonna stick with the old folks for a little bit because next is Old Man Jenkins, the man who's had at least 3 different character designs over the years. Old Man Jenkins does it all. Whether it's firing himself from a cannon to protect the city folk from their no-good flying machines, or providing the impoverished Krabs family with rags to make clothing, allowing for a literal rags to riches story.
I knew no good would come from city folk and their flying machines. That's it.
Jenkins is a nice, well-intentioned guy who's always willing to help. On top of that, he even uses his jalape's horn to censor out swears sometimes. And the name of the game for now is background characters. We're going to include some of the most iconic ones, like the Goo Lagoon lifeguard. Sometimes to be a great character, you don't need any flashy gimmicks or anything. All you need is to be a decent guy doing his job well.
Hey, look! A cardboard box washed up on the beach.
Well, I thought someone was behind me, bro.
Holy fish paste! It's a guy!
This lifeguard has been protecting Goo Lagoon since the earliest seasons of the show, and the mere thought of someone drowning sends him into absolute panic. He's a dedicated guy who's always down to save others when they're in trouble. Even SpongeBob's notorious ripped pants prank wasn't enough to deter this everyday hero. Speaking of dedication, we've got to give a quick shout out to Incidental 70. Really, what can we say about him? He's one of those background characters who did literally next to nothing aside from saying,
Hey, SpongeBob's back!
Yet we all universally missed him enough for the fact of his return to making cameos in the series to take over the internet for a few weeks. Imagine being so loved that people are rallying for you to return 2 decades later and you don't even have more than a single speaking role. That's dedication. On the next episode of Wait, that guy has a name? We have Frank, the buff goldfish. Why is he this high up, you ask? Just look at him.
Here he is.
That ain't SpongeBob. SpongeBob is square.
He's so goofy, even by SpongeBob character design standards. It really feels like one of the artists behind the show doodled this guy on their lunch break and he became an office favorite. I could totally be wrong, but if I had an office, he'd be one of its favorites for sure. What an absolute icon. Darwin has been hitting the gym, clearly. And rounding out the C tier, we have Bubble Buddy. The guy is iconic, and he does get some points for offering you all sorts of advice in Battle for Bikini Bottom. That said, he's also weirdly inconsiderate. From dumping his son on SpongeBob for an impromptu babysitting session to holding up a whole line of people in the bathroom for 2 hours.
Don't just stand there, dude! The tide's coming in! Oh!
Bubble Buddy is a menace, but he's a memorable one at least. Didn't he also leave that guy to die in high tide? Now it's time to start getting to the more iconic characters in SpongeBob's history. We still have plenty to get through, so let's start the B tier. Perch Perkins is reporting live from the first position in the D tier.
We interrupt this program for an important announcement. Bikini Bottom is literally in a state of total chaos tonight.
Oh, literally!
If I had a nickel for every time D. Bradley Baker voiced an orange cartoon fish, I'd have 2 nickels. But if I had a nickel for everyone that used to be purple, I'd only have 1. Oh well, colors aside, Perch Perkins is a pretty reliable newscaster who's willing to get his fins dirty to make sure you are getting the information you need.
The second unaffected person is in this dumpster. Care to comment, sir, on the chaos?
Perch Perkins, how did you know I was in here?
Whether it's showing off the grand opening of the Krusty Krab 2 or warning citizens of the ongoing Krabby Patty shortage.
This will end poorly.
But as great as Perch is, we can't call him better than the OG SpongeBob newscaster, a realistic fish head. One of the earliest brands of SpongeBob's classic surreal humor was this absolute gem of a fish.
Hey kids, are you ready to hear the winner of this week's contest?
I'm ready! I'm ready!
He always knew just when to report on whatever's relevant to the episode and how to time it for maximum dramatic effect. Heck, he's even nice enough to give some commentary during the boss battles in Battle for Bikini Bottom. That's not to mention that he's technically one of the very first characters to appear in the series. He shows up in the theme song, meaning he's been canon for longer than Sandy or Plankton.
And how can you not make money with such a brilliant idea?
If it weren't for Realistic Fish Head, we wouldn't know what to do if nautical nonsense was something we wished. So for answering that age-old question, we thank him. And since we're on the topic of brown secondary fish characters, let's talk about Fred, aka the My Leg guy. He obviously gets points for embodying one of SpongeBob's most beloved running gags, even if it was admittedly funnier before the series acknowledged it directly.
My leg!
But Fred gets more points for being more than just a gag character.
Oh, dang nematodes!
He's a romantic with enough dedication to mutilate himself over and over to see the nurse he's fallen in love with. And he's also a musician. When SpongeBob introduces the Krusty Krab to Jelly Patties and Jellyfish Hunter, Fred treats the restaurant to a whole musical number about how darn delicious they turned out to be. I'm still not planning to put jellyfish jelly on my next cheeseburger, but if Fred gives me a musical performance, I might just change my tune there yet.
Oh yeah.
You know what sounds even better?
Bro, bro, Fred has to be my favorite character fish from SpongeBob, bro. He's so funny as hell. Especially his fucking running gag, dude. Like, my leg! Or my leg! Like, it just be so funny when it be like that, like, for real, man.
Better than Jelly patties, though? Tom is up next. We couldn't leave out the iconic chocolate guy, right?
Chocolate? Chocolate! Chocolate!
While that's his most memorable outburst, he has a lot of other good ones. He's the one who finally rallies the town against Bubble Buddy before he burns their crops, poisons their water supply, and delivers a plague onto their houses. Showing that he's always looking out for the little guy. But when he's not being harassed nor offered his favorite treat, Tom is a surprisingly chill guy. When he realizes that SpongeBob didn't do anything to his drink except putting only one ice cube in it, he quickly laughs it off, despite moments earlier looking ready to tear the little guy in half. Wouldn't have been his first time. 21 characters is long enough. That's it! Harold is long overdue for mention on our list. He might not be as iconic as Fred nor Tom, but this Blue Barracuda is every bit as iconic. While, like Tom, he's known for losing his temper fairly often, I don't think that's doing him justice.
Make a wish, dear.
All my wishes have already come true.
Think about it. He was willing to wait for 2 hours in the line at the Porto Head for SpongeBob's friend. That's some surprising patience right there. And while he does get feisty sometimes, it's practically always justified.
Hi there, young people. Nice day today.
So, you like kicking butts, do ya? Well, we'll show you, old man! There he is!
Sometimes you just need to call out crappy behavior when you see it, so we can appreciate a character who does that while still being a relatively nice guy on the whole. After all, we can't forget who taught that untrustworthy old man a lesson for trying to kick SpongeBob's butt. While he isn't the cleanest Bubble character on our list, the Dirty Bubble still deserves a decent spot on our list. As one of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy's arch nemesis, the Dirty Bubble is, well, he's a dirty bubble. It's pretty hilarious that one of the main supervillains in this universe doesn't even have limbs, or really a body. He's literally just a bubble with evil eyes and a mouth.
Did someone say evil?
Extra points are in order for him actually trying to clean up his act, literally. If only he could overcome his chronic addiction to filth, maybe he could be a force of good rather than evil. But for right now, he still fits in that evil category.
Scared, boys? Well, don't be.
While he might not be a super villain, Squilliam Fancy Son is still one of the series' most iconic bad guys. Like most episodes after season 5, Squilliam exists for one reason only: to make you feel bad for Squidward. He might not appear often, heck, he only appeared in 2 episodes before the movie and only a few after that, but Squilliam made for a fantastic rival, and one who made you feel for Squidward even on his worst days.
Oh, let me help you out. There.
Sure, Squidward is prideful and arrogant, but he's shown to have a good-natured side as well. Squilliam, on the other hand, is just a smug jerk who prides himself on tearing Squidward down.
It truly is, Nicky.
The hot bod and Hugh Hefner robe only make him look like more of a jerk. But love him or hate him, one thing is for sure: without Squilliam, we wouldn't have Band Geeks, and that truly would be a terrible fate. He also gains points for that admittedly sweet unibrow. But we're not done with the supervillains yet. The Dirty Bubble is great, but Man Ray is a tough one to beat. Appearing first in Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 3, Man Ray is a manipulative manta ray man who's only held back by a tickle belt controlled by SpongeBob and Patrick. Seeing SpongeBob and Pat torment this guy as a means of rehabilitation was always pretty funny, even if we felt a little sorry for him. By the end of the episode, he even appears to have reformed somewhat. He has chicks with little poodles on them. While he does fall back into villainy later on, he makes up for it by having some pretty stellar performances. Remember the episode Back to the Past where he managed to become the dictator of Bikini Bottom and it takes time travel to stop him? And when he isn't doing villainous stuff, he can be surprisingly chill.
Hey, you're not eating fast enough.
When he runs into SpongeBob and Patrick in their extremely convincing Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy disguises in shuffleboarding, his old friend refers to them as Man Ray's friends, and he doesn't correct this.
Any friend of Ray's is a friend of mine.
Which suggests that the rivalry might just be in good fun more than anything else. We've officially reached the top 25, and it's time to move on to the first SpongeBob movie to talk about, Mindy. It's kind of wild to see Scarlett Johansson, of all people, voicing a SpongeBob character, even if it was just...
Dude, maybe she was voiced by Scarlett Johansson. And don't get me wrong, I like Scarlett Johansson. I think she's a cool actress. You know what I'm saying?
For this movie. But while Mindy isn't the most memorable character personality-wise, her sticking up for all of her subjects still makes her one of the series' most admirable. Without her, SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs probably would have been fried on the spot, and we can't ignore the excellent job of stalling she did.
So, you think I'm... stalling?
Nah, actually, I don't think she's stalling. Never mind that. But we won't stall on the way to our next character, Dennis.
I've already hired someone to take care of those two. He's a vicious, cold-blooded predator!
It's a name that sends shivers down the spines of even the manliest of men. For a SpongeBob movie to have a full-on bounty hunter character was pretty impressive, and honestly, pretty hilarious too. Seriously, it's next-level comedy to have a character hyped up as this vicious, cold-blooded predator, only to get literally stepped on and knocked off by a bridge instead of actually being defeated by the main characters. But as any SpongeBob fan would already know, Dennis couldn't have kicked SpongeBob's butt anyway, not if Flats the Flounder is any indication. Right away, he gets points for being from one of the best SpongeBob episodes. Seriously, the bully will never not be funny. The sheer amount of aggression Flats has towards someone who's literally only said 3 words to him is incredible.
I'm SpongeBob.
Speed blah blah.
Hi, SpongeBob. I'm gonna kick your butt.
Every time it seems like there's an easy solution, from telling Mrs. Puff to asking Flats' dad for advice, Flats has a leg up somehow.
Dad, what are you doing? Nothing, son. What did I tell you about talking to strangers?
He gets points for sheer determination to kick SpongeBob's butt, even trying for several days to no avail. Like her 16th birthday, this next spot is all about Pearl. Mr. Krabs' inexplicable whale daughter is your typical...
Dude, I can't stand Pearl. I really can't. Pearl is just pretty annoying, bro. Like, I understand with Mr. Krabs. Yeah, Mr. Krabs is a scumbag, bro. But in these, he just trying his best to give his daughter what he wants. But she just cries over everything, and she just insecure. Like, what the fuck, man? She just annoying as fuck, dude.
Spoiled teenage girl. Well, to an extent, at least. Pearl might be a bit bratty and self-absorbed, sure, but she's more than just a boy-crazy teenager. She can actually be surprisingly considerate. In one of her earliest episodes, The Chaperone, she has to settle for going to prom with SpongeBob after her date flakes on her, and despite her disappointment, she comforts him when he's overwhelmed by his guilt over ruining her prom.
Aha! Keep away from my precious little flower! You almost stepped on it.
Pearl isn't perfect, but she can be surprisingly nice, and her love for her daddy is sweet. She even makes him breakfast out of pure bran, hand-sculpted into the shape of more flavorful foods.
Open up! It's time for the pill!
Sure, she's a little spoiled, but at least she cares about people, and that earns her a lot of credit. Landing just outside of the A tier, we have King Neptune. Neppy, if you're watching this, please don't freeze us. We'd love to put you higher. Honestly, you played a pretty great antagonist in the SpongeBob movie, and occasionally in the series, even though your design inexplicably changed. Really, there's nothing in particular holding the king back from a higher spot, except, well, when it was revealed how bald, thinning his head was, my eyes burned so badly that I had to attend physical therapy for weeks. I didn't even know they had physical therapy for eyes, but I've got to take points off for that regardless. But without further ado, we've reached the top 20, and therefore the most memorable and beloved characters in SpongeBob history. So let's kick this top 20 off with the A tier. This is the point where the characters actually got pretty difficult to rank, so we'll kick it off with the least seen character remaining, David Hasselhoff. What a weird moment in cinema history, seeing a Baywatch actor show up as a sort of deus ex machina to take SpongeBob and Patrick back to Bikini Bottom in time. He willingly acts as both a ferry and a battlefield and uses his mighty pecs to fire SpongeBob and Patrick in just enough time to save the town and Mr. Krabs. Note they already finished the Get the Crown step at this point. Up next is Bubble Bass, the bane of fast food workers everywhere.
Fucking God, bro. Dude, Bubble Bass pissed me off, dude. He really do piss me off. Like, me, my least favorite fucking character in SpongeBob. All he does, like, on the fucking pickle episode, is trying to make SpongeBob as it seems that he doesn't even have pickles in his fucking Krabby Patty. Meanwhile, he's behind the Krabby Patties on his fucking tongue the whole entire fucking time, dude, with his fat ass, dude. Like, I'm just saying that he just such a bitch. Especially when, especially just, you know what I'm saying, the episode when he was trying to have SpongeBob and Patrick just move his stuff out his mom's house. And if he moving there, then he would just give him some lunch. But he just saying that out of manipulation. You know what I mean? Like, he just a bitch, bro. I can't stand him.
From mistreating the cashiers to ordering the most complicated sandwich you've ever heard of, Bubble Bass is obnoxious in every sense of the word. Originally, he just appeared a few times in Season 1, most notably in Pickles to torment SpongeBob for basically no reason.
You lose!
That's what I was talking about.
And then sitting on Plankton in Fun, spoiler alert, it was not, in fact, fun for Plankton.
Unbelievable!
While he was gone for a long time, he eventually returned in later seasons, and Look, there's a lot of bad stuff you could say about new SpongeBob, but giving Bubble Bass the role of the town neckbeard was absolute brilliance. He's manipulative, lazy, obnoxious, and just all around a sleazy guy, and you can't help but love him because the series is so delightfully aware of that. I mean, come on, they even straight up turned him into a parody of the Nostalgia Critic in an episode of The Patrick Show. I've never watched it, but I have respect for it just on that basis, even if not much. Next, we have one half of the most iconic SpongeBob couple around, Karen Plankton. She started as a regular computer monitor in Plankton's lab, serving to help keep him on track to steal the Krabby Patty's secret formula.
I mean, Karen's a little bit annoying. Like, I just don't care about her. But, you know, most of the things that Plankton do, it is justified, bro. Because Plankton is just a piece of shit. With both him and Mr. Krabs are both scumbags. But I'm just saying, man.
Formula, and occasionally roast him when his plans are especially bad.
I don't want to talk about it.
Talking will make you feel better.
Leave me alone.
In later seasons, however, she's coming to her own as a character. Even apart from Plankton, Karen can be pretty endearing and often keeps him in check with everything from death rays to straight up boxing matches with her replacement.
No one runs down my man. Planky.
But arguably our favorite Karen episode was Single Cell Anniversary, where Karen manages to steal the formula with literally zero effort, then holding it hostage as an anniversary gift for Plankton until he gets her something proper.
Oh, my Karen. Oh, my computer wife, Karen.
That shows that she's not only much more capable than Plankton, but that she genuinely loves her husband. You gotta respect that devotion. But there's one member of the Plankton household who's even better, and that's his adorable pet amoeba, Spot. Who said modern SpongeBob can't have a W here and there? Spot is just... He's just precious, really. He debuted in the season 9 episode Plankton's Pet, in which he surprisingly wasn't taken away from Plankton in the end. In fact, he rescues SpongeBob and Plankton from some hostile pets, and later returns as a recurring character. It's sweet to have a character that Plankton has a fully healthy, loving bond with, and honestly, it's just really nice to see Plankton be able to enjoy happiness sometimes, at least.
Oh, I can't stay mad at these cute little faces.
Also, side note, did anyone else love the gimmick of Spot hiding in every stage of the Cosmic Shake game? That's seriously one of the cutest collectibles I've ever seen. You might think we're done with those background fish by now, but there's one more who reigns supreme over all the others. Scooter. Mostly appearing in earlier seasons, Scooter is an absolute delight. Known for his iconic laugh, almost always chilling at Goo Lagoon and going along with pretty much anything that life throws at him.
Hey, look! Mr. Krabs put in a kiddie ride!
Why don't you try it out?
I can't find the coin slot! Here it is!
Scooter steals the show whenever he appears. Let it be known that even literally dying wasn't enough to steal Scooter's joy.
Kids, he made me experience high tide! Oh!
He's the kind of guy who just embodies positivity. He'll tell you to your face if you told a good joke or if you made an awesome surfboard. The man wears his heart on his sleeve and is definitely one of the most lovable side characters in the series. But let us draw your attention to our next character, Doodlebob. The final character on our list who only appears in a few episodes, Doodlebob is one of the most iconic characters in SpongeBob history, despite only appearing in the classic episode Frankendoodle, and later on in Doodle Dimension. This crudely drawn creature was a savage from the moment he gained sentience.
He makes me sick just looking at him. Those big bulgy eyes, that square body, those two-buck teeth, and that stupid tie!
The literal first thing he did was greet Squidward by tossing him around like a rag doll, and he threatened to effectively destroy SpongeBob with the Magic Pencil's eraser. On top of being one of the best antagonists in the whole series, Doodlebob's inexplicable manner of speaking and moving is always going to be one of the funniest things in the whole series. Doodlebob walked so Glep could run. But honestly, Doodlebob ran pretty well himself. Patchy's best friend and occasional worst enemy, Potty the Parrot, is next. Sure, he might absolutely bully Patchy for most of his screen time, but without him, Patchy's segments wouldn't be nearly as entertaining. From tricking Patchy into firing himself from a cannon to trying desperately to kiss him under the mistletoe for some reason, Potty is as relentless as he is endearing. If you think he's too high up, let me remind you that in the original 3 seasons, Potty was voiced by none other than the late, great Stephen Hillenburg. We're starting to get into the most memorable side characters now, so let's live like Larry the Lobster.
Anybody up for some volleyball?
No Diddy, but Larry's such a fucking dope character, man. Like, for real.
Larry, in short, is a breath of fresh air. Usually in cartoons, especially kids' cartoons, the vain jock characters are played as bullies at worst and narcissists at best. Larry is admittedly pretty full of himself, but he still defies the stereotype by being a genuinely nice guy. Even though SpongeBob is jealous of Larry's status as a lifeguard and just generally a Giga Chad, Larry is always happy to include SpongeBob, from trusting him at his word that he's a lifeguard to giving him free swimming lessons. He's also surprisingly down to earth. When SpongeBob's Ripped Pants song moves him, Larry asks him to sign his pants. It's clear that Larry is a ladies' man, so for him to be secure enough in his masculinity to ask another dude to sign his swimming trunks is seriously cool. And closing out the A tier, we have one of the series' most underappreciated characters, Mrs. Puff. Seriously, Puff Mama does not get the credit she deserves. She's the incredibly tired driving instructor of SpongeBob, and as a result is constantly filled with anxiety and existential dread over what his next driving lesson will have in store for her and her criminal record.
Alive! I'm alive!
Not gonna lie, I somewhat feel bad for Mrs. Puff because SpongeBob can't even fucking pass a voting test. But I don't know, man. It's just so hard. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, thank Neptune, I'm still...
You always get the sense that Mrs. Puff is just barely keeping her sanity intact, and that makes her both sympathetic and surprisingly hilarious.
Sorry I'm late. I got caught in traffic on the way in here when that whole I'm gonna be doing this for the rest of my life thing reared its ugly head, and
Similarly to Squidward, Mrs. Puff is a character you don't appreciate fully until you've grown up a bit. You can laugh at SpongeBob and Patrick's antics anytime, but it takes a few panic attacks, criminal contemplations, and existential crises of your own to understand where Mrs. Puff is coming from, and once you do, you have one of the most surprisingly funny characters in the series. But our top tier has been reserved for the series' most iconic, unforgettable characters. This is the S tier. Kicking this top tier off is the naughty ghost who haunts the seven seas, the Flying Dutchman.
Ooh, scary.
Oh, that's impossible!
There are some secondary characters who, when seen, confirm that you're watching a really good episode. The Flying Dutchman is one of those characters, with a cool design and color palette, one of the most iconic vocal performances in the show, and some of the best episodes.
You like ponies, I like ponies!
Is that a wedding ring?
Oh, this shows nothing.
The Flying Dutchman is just plain cool. Granted, it's hard to make a ghost pirate anything but cool, whether he's playing an imposing antagonist or a surprising anti-hero, pretty much any appearance from Old Dutchie is guaranteed to be a success. Even the occasional PS2 game of questionable quality. Next we have a dual entry. Yeah, I know, we've really tried not to do those today, but with Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, can you blame us? These two are a package deal, protecting the seas from all kinds of threats, even if they're retired.
Semi-retired.
While they're pretty much always together, their different personalities always made it so the dynamic never got boring. Mermaid Man wouldn't be complete without Barnacle Boy's grouchiness, and he wouldn't be complete without the old Coots' senile yet compassionate nature.
Banco!
It's bingo!
Get your hands off me!
Like Dutchie, anytime this dynamic duo gets the spotlight, it's just about guaranteed to be a good episode. That even goes for the later seasons too. They even got a pretty good origin story episode.
It was at that moment we decided to team up.
Honestly, the fact that they've never gotten to be in a SpongeBob movie is a darn shame, especially since both of their voice actors have passed.
He's right. It's just a shame that we don't have a fucking Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy movie from SpongeBob. Like, that's just crazy.
Dawn, may they rest in peace. Here's hoping they can have all the adult-sized Krabby Patties.
Listen, RP to the voice of who voiced Barnacle Boy, man. He really passed away, I think, last year. Yeah, RP to him, dude.
They want in heaven. As great as Poddy, the parrot, is, Patchy the pirate is the star of the show.
Patchy the pirate.
Patty! Don't you know this is Patchy private time? Oh, hello.
There's a reason he's president of the SpongeBob fan club, after all. Just look at this room of his. I can't be the only one who wanted a ton of the stuff he has as a kid, right? The sheer unapologetic passion Patchy has for his favorite cartoon character is as funny as it is occasionally unsettling. Seeing this fully grown man hunting for treasure at a playground, getting lost in the desert, hallucinating about SpongeBob, or even writing SpongeBob Christmas fanfiction is incredible. And if you don't have enough Patchy in your life, you're in luck. There's always the official Patchy's Dance Tips VHS series for only $29.95. Just remember that it is unlawful to blah blah blah. There are 7 entries left now, and I think all you SpongeBob fans know what that means. We've reached the main 7 of the series. Ordering these guys was really, really difficult, but at number 7, we have Sandy Cheeks. While she may be a land critter...
Oh, shit. Bro, my favorite character is SpongeBob, Sandy Cheeks. Not only that, it's my favorite. The reason why she's my favorite character is because she's like the perfect friend that you need in your fucking life. Somebody that's loyal to, not only loyal to you, but to everybody that's like, every single one of her friends, you know what I'm saying? She's like really loyal to everybody in the Bikini Bottom, especially SpongeBob, dude. And not only that, man, Sandy is a way better friend than Patrick. She's a way better friend than Patrick, dude. I'm being dead ass, dude. And not only that, man, like Sandy always has SpongeBob's back, man. Like that's the thing about this shit, bro. I don't know, bro. That's just why she's not my favorite character, because she's always been a loyal friend to not only SpongeBob, but to everyone in the Bikini Bottom. So yeah, man, I've always felt she's like my favorite character on there.
Sandy quickly stole the hearts of both SpongeBob and his fans. She's a lovable do-gooder who's a master of karate, science, rodeos, and anything else related to space or Texas you can think of. As chaotic as most of Bikini Bottom's residents are, Sandy evens out her chaos with a surprisingly intact moral compass. She's one of SpongeBob's most consistently reliable friends and a voice of reason whenever she shows up.
Ooh, you know what that cloud looks like?
What?
A flower.
They all look like flowers, SpongeBob.
All the time? They sure do.
And while it's easy to overlook the character designs of such iconic characters, Sandy's is one of those designs we just have to point out. Like, come on, she's a squirrel in an astronaut suit. You don't just look at that and not consider it peak character design. Sandy is equal parts cool and funny, and as much as we'd love to place her higher, there are still 6 Bikini Bottomites we hold in even higher regard. Slithering just outside the top 5 is everyone's favorite domesticated mollusk, Gary the Snail. Gary would honestly be a great character even if he was just a recurring gag character. Though he'll just communicate with meows and occasionally other sounds, yet still be completely understood by SpongeBob is pretty memorable.
Ah, that's more like it. Hello there, Papa Bob.
But what makes Gary so cool is the fact that he always goes above and beyond expectations. SpongeBob goes a whole episode trying to learn how to tie his shoes properly. Turns out Gary has shoes and knows how to tie them.
How did you learn to do that?
Well, yeah, like it's just so crazy that he has like shoes that he know how to tie them better than anyone else. I mean, they know how to tie them, and it turns out that he has shoes, you know?
SpongeBob wants to give Gary a bath. Translation, SpongeBob signs his death warrant. Gary is as deadly as he is adorable, from inexplicably teleporting to being able to bark instead of meowing for opposite day. He's a mystery we'll never truly unravel, and honestly, that's just fine by me.
Where's your holiday spirit?
Gary is an adorable snail who comes in clutch when you need him, and let's not forget, Gary Come Home. There's good reason for the fact that many people consider it on par with the classic episodes, after all. Eat your blackened, unibrowed heart out, Squilliam. You can't hold a candle to our main man, Squidward tentacles. Honestly, even putting Squiddy this low feels criminal. It's been said plenty of times before, but as those of us who grew up with the classic SpongeBob seasons have grown older, we've started to understand Squidward more and more. His pessimism, his obsession with self-care, his easily annoyed nature. Whether you relate to it or not, Squidward is a character who becomes more sympathetic the older you get.
Everybody's an idiot except for me.
Well, it's true.
But Squidward is more than just a negative Nancy. While he can be mean and snarky, especially in the earliest and latest seasons of the show, he's got a good heart deep down. We all know about his classic pizza delivery moment where he slaps that nasty customer with a presumably ice-cold pizza to the face, but there was also the time—
Yeah, that was such a legendary moment from Squidward when that customer literally yelled at SpongeBob, and Squidward literally just throw that pizza right in the customer's face. Ever since he knocked on the fucking door, like that was such a fucking OG moment from Squidward, bro.
He gave away literally everything in his house to cheer SpongeBob up when he thought Santa wasn't coming to Bikini Bottom's first Christmas. But perhaps Squidward's most intriguing trait comes out in the episode Squidville, when he finally moves away from SpongeBob and Patrick to Tentacle Acres.
Oh look, everybody's on their bike today.
Only to realize his life is just plain and boring without them. Mr. Grouchy Man here is a stick in the sand, but we still love him. There are just 4 more characters we love even more. Barely beating Squidward is his skinflint boss, Mr. Krabs. While he's
Krabs, this is the reading motherfucker.
one of the least moral characters in the cast, Mr. Krabs more than makes up for it with one attribute: humor.
Got a crisp dollar bill for the next fella to take a bath in this house.
It's been said plenty by now that Mr. Krabs' morals have deteriorated over the course of the series, but I don't know. Maybe it's that iconic vocal performance by Clancy Brown, or maybe it's the humor and just how far Krabs will go to make a quick buck, like trying to assassinate Squidward and Out of the Picture. But whether it's new or old SpongeBob, we just can't bring ourselves to hate Mr. Krabs. Most of the time, that is. What really elevates him this high is the surprising amount of heart he hides beneath his ruthless greed.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Krabs is a total cheapskate, but he also deeply cares for his family. He pretends that the Krusty Krab is a pirate ship so his grandpappy won't be ashamed, steals food from the whole town to keep Pearl fed during a growth spurt, and has shown time and time again that he cares for SpongeBob like a son, even if he's often doing some pretty heinous stuff to him. It's very true that Krabs can go overboard, but whether he's a surprisingly sweet father figure or a totally depraved sadist, things are never gonna be dull when Eugene Krabs is on screen. Our bronze medal of greatness goes to the one with the pants that are square and the sponge that is Bob. SpongeBob will not let us down. Really, basically anyone in the past 7 spots could have reasonably taken home the gold, SpongeBob included. He's got a perfect mix of childlike optimism and ambitious passion. He finds joy in everything from flipping burgers to feeding his snail to beating his record time at the supermarket. In a world that's become more cynical than ever before, characters like SpongeBob are invaluable.
Old people are the greatest. They're full of wisdom and experience.
It's just refreshing to see a character who's so refreshingly nice and joyful. We're not gonna pretend like we don't understand why some people find SpongeBob grating. Yeah, he laughs a lot, and he cries a lot, especially in the later seasons.
It just isn't fair!
But it's hard to deny just how likable and authentic he is. SpongeBob wears his heart on his sleeve, whether he's laughing for hours over a joke about nickels or having an absolute mental breakdown at the thought of being fired, and that's something to be admired about him. It's also a nice touch that SpongeBob isn't perfect, given that he has a bit of an ego at times.
You gotta be kidding me.
It helps him to feel more realistic and relatable to anyone who's trying to find joy in the little things. SpongeBob is a caring kid who deserves the world, and even if his optimism is reckless, we can't help but root for him regardless. But the silver medalist of greatness is SpongeBob's arch frenemy, Sheldon J. Plankton. One of the most iconic voices, designs, and demeanors in Nicktoons history, Plankton is a character who's aged like a fine wine. Like Squidward, he's become more understandable with age, but unlike Squidward, he remains squarely in the villainous category. His determination to steal the Krabby Patty formula is funny already, but then you realize he has legitimate plans for world domination based around this seemingly petty goal, and suddenly it goes from silly to absolutely absurd. He might be evil, but Plankton is one of those villains you can't help but root for, whether it's out of pity or out of the undeniable curiosity of what the secret formula actually is. Come on, Krabs, let him peek, at least.
Never! I'd rather that worm come in here right now and eat you all alive!
As for why Plankton is so high up, well, with most SpongeBob characters, they sort of lost their way in the later seasons, a fact that we've done our best to not take into account too much for this list, but even if we did consider that, Plankton's position wouldn't be hurt much. Even in later seasons, Plankton is every bit as maniacally entertaining as he's always been.
You're one of those evil guys.
You're all banned. Just give me my order, or you'll know the meaning of fear!
Sure, he's a little less evil, but that makes for some fun episodes in itself, like the time he recruited SpongeBob to save Karen from a computer virus and actually showed genuine concern for both of them. Plankton is awesome, and we'd gladly crown him Nickelodeon's second greatest diabolical little green dude behind him. But our gold medal of greatness goes to none other than the man you'd
best not call Tubby.
The one, the only
Patrick Star.
Patrick is just... Patrick is delightful.
You have to take the tray to the customer.
Okay.
He's one of those characters who takes basically every scene he's in and improves it. Usually Patrick is acting as SpongeBob's best buddy, giving him good advice like,
when in doubt, pinky out,
and even helping him break Mrs. Puff out of jail. But at other times, he can be SpongeBob's worst enemy, and while this is never malicious, seasons 6 and 7 didn't happen, it's always funny to see just how out of control Patrick's schemes can get. Remember Big Pink Loser, where Patrick started copying SpongeBob's behavior to win an award, and casually revealed that he has the power to read minds?
At least I'm safe inside my mind.
At least I'm safe inside my mind.
Many cartoons have had characters whose whole shtick is being wild cards who can count their brain cells on one hand, but Patrick is probably the most iconic example of that archetype.
That's just what I'd expect you to say. Dumb people are always blissfully unaware of how dumb they really are.
You can never tell whether Patrick is going to be SpongeBob's best friend or his worst nightmare in any given episode, but you know he'll make you laugh, and you know he'll always be doing his best to be the bestest best buddy you could ask for. For every time he's smugly stealing all of Gary's attention from SpongeBob, there's another where he's literally beating himself to a pulp so he can get into the salty spittoon. Patrick is a lovable, happy, unpredictable goofball who embodies what makes SpongeBob such a fun, comfy show to watch, and my personal favorite character in it. He's content with who he is and just wants to enjoy life with his best buddies, and that's why we're telling him to firmly grasp the gold medal of greatness. There you go, Pat. You finally got another award.
Hey, it's your very dry skin. I need 72-hour hydration with new CeraVe Intensive Moisturizing Lotion.
It's so funny, bro. But hey, man, yeah, there's all these SpongeBob characters we got. I mean, look, I got my top 5 favorite SpongeBob characters from SpongeBob. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Number 1, Sandy. 2, Squidward. 3, SpongeBob. 4, Gary. And number 5, Patrick. Is mayonnaise an instrument? No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Oh my god, man, it's so funny. But yeah, man, what was I trying to, oh yeah, that's it for this video, bro. All I know is SpongeBob is like really one of my favorite cartoon shows of all time, and it'll ever be the fucking GOAT. So, I don't know, man, I absolutely like SpongeBob, man. So yeah. So yeah, that's it for SpongeBob. Now we're gonna react to hold on, bro. Hold on.